The November 4th election has been described as a bloodbath for Democrats nationally and here in Wisconsin. In the wake of that electoral thumping, much has been said and written about what the state Democratic Party needs to do now. Everything from rethinking the party, changing the messaging, even replacing its leadership. Now that the dust has settled a bit, we've invited State Democratic Party Chairman Mike Tate in to discuss what happens now. Chairman Tate, good to have you back on the program.
Thanks, Mike.
So what do you make of all of this chatter that's out there that says it's time for Mike Tate to go? Mike Tate's the reason why we lost these races.
Sure.
What's your response to that?
Well, I don't think that I'm the reason we lost these races. You know, obviously my name's on the door, so I understand that people are going to point fingers at me. But I think the most important thing for the party right now is to, continue in the vein we've been doing, which is it's terrible to lose, but we're working very hard to, turn around what happened to us in 2010. Obviously facing tough new lines with this gerrymandering that's happened. But we have to learn the lessons we can from this election, get better, and make sure that we're using what we're finding out here, that we do get better and not bitter at the results, and that we keep moving forward.
What are the lessons of that election?
I think the lessons are, you saw Democratic performance improve in 20-some counties across the state, especially in western Wisconsin. We continue to have major problems in the Green Bay media market. And you saw up there, you saw referendums pass on raising the minimum wage, on accepting Badger Care funding. Yet people voted overwhelmingly for Scott Walker. And one of the things we started doing very early in 2013, I think need to continue to do, is make a serious investment in organizing on the ground there. Just because we didn't get to where we needed to this year doesn't mean we should just throw up our hands and say we can't continue to invest in the Fox Valley and Green Bay. We are never going to win a governor's race unless we're able to sort of break into that Green Bay media market. I have every reason to believe we will. I think that our message and our values are the right ones to address the challenges people are facing in Wisconsin, and we need to keep moving forward.
So if the message is the right message, why the disconnect with people in, for example, the northern third of the state or the Green Bay media market? What's happening there that is causing them not to vote Democratic?
Sure, and let me be clear that I'm not saying our message can't get better and that we shouldn't, look at what worked and what didn't. We absolutely should. But I think that you have someone in Scott Walker, and this is very hard for a lot of people in my party to understand, that I think voters have a genuine affection for him. And they think that even if they don't agree with everything...
In that part of the state.
And I think especially in the Green Bay market and a little bit northern Wisconsin, they think that, look, this is a guy that came in and took bold action. I disagree with the actions he took, but he did take bold action. And we've got to figure out how can we make sure that we are breaking through to the people in Green Bay who are working twice as hard for less pay or having trouble finding a job or worried about putting their kid through college, that it's our party that has the real answers to the solutions they face. We didn't get that done on Tuesday, but that doesn't mean we throw up our hands and walk away or, form a circular firing squad. We have to double down and keep working to make sure that people know exactly where the Democratic Party stands for. We can do better, and we will do better, but we must keep moving forward.
Are you the guy to lead this party forward into the future?
Well, I'm going to make a decision about what I'm going to do in January. That's what I've done for the last, 3 times after the cycle. Listen, I love this job. I enjoy the challenges of it, of which there are many. I don't mind people taking out some of their, initial frustrations and everything, but my focus, whether I, run again or don't, is going to be on how can we keep moving forward, how can we keep investing in the grassroots of our party, and how can we make sure that the tweaks we need to make and how we talk to voters around the state are being made, and that we're continuing to move forward.
So we shouldn't make anything of the fact that Joe Winnicke, your predecessor, is talking about, hey, I would be interested in being chair if Mike Tate didn't run for chair. We should be making what of that?
Well, Joe Winnicke's a great guy. He was a good party chair. He's a good friend of mine. I think that, he's made clear that if Mike doesn't run, it's something he'd take a strong look at. I have no problem with that. I'm sure that he may not be the only one that says that before the end of the day, but I firmly believe if I run again, I would win as chair. I think that despite the, rough electoral outcomes, we had great electoral outcomes in 2012 at the end of the day. People never thought Senator Tammy Baldwin would be able to beat Governor Tommy Thompson in a race for the U.S. Senate. We did that. I am the same guy that I was after the 2012 election as I am after 2014.
I have just a little bit of time left, but 2016, big Senate race coming up. Are you optimistic that Democrats are going to have a much better showing in 2016?
I am, and it's not just this, difference in turnout and everything else. I think that Ron Johnson has the wrong priorities for Wisconsin. I think that the votes he's taken and the stands that he's really laid down a marker on are not what Wisconsin families are looking for. And I'm really optimistic, and I think we're going to beat him. And whether it's someone like Russ Feingold running again for his old seat, someone like Ron Kind, congressman from the 3rd CD, I'm very confident that Ron Johnson will no longer be our senator in January of 2017.
You think Russ Feingold's going to run?
I think that from what I hear, a lot of people are talking about it. I think people would be very eager for him to run, and I think that Russ would have a phenomenal shot to win if he does run, and I'd encourage him to run. I'd also say the same thing to Ron Kind.
Chairman of the Democratic Party in Wisconsin, Mike Tate, thanks for being with us today. Appreciate
Always.
it.
Coming up next, protecting the Great Lakes and drinking water for millions of people.